All right. Brutus 11. You may use your pleasure, replied Atticus with a smile, for it is the privilege of rhetoricians to exceed the truth of history, that they may have an opportunity of embellishing the fate of their heroes, and accordingly Clitarchus and Stratocoles have entertained us with the same pretty fiction about the death of Themistocles, which you have invented for Coriolanus. Thucydides, indeed, who was himself an Athenian of the highest rank and merit and lived nearly at the same time, has only informed us that he died and was privately buried in Attica, adding that it was suspected by some that he had poisoned himself. But these ingenious writers have assured us that, having slain a bull at the altar, he caught the blood in a large bowl, and drinking it off, fell suddenly dead upon the ground. For this species of death had a tragical air, and might be described with all the pomp of rhetoric, whereas the ordinary way of dying afforded no opportunity for ornament. As it will therefore suit your purpose that Coriolanus should resemble Themistocles in everything, I give you leave to introduce the fatal bowl, and you may still farther heighten the catastrophe by a solemn sacrifice, that Coriolanus may appear in all respects to have been a second Themistocles. I am much obliged to you, said I, for your courtesy, but for the future, I shall be more cautious in meddling with history when you are present, whom I may justly commend are at most exact and scrupulous relator of the Roman history. But nearly at the time we are speaking of, though somewhat later, lived the above-mentioned Pericles, the illustrious son of Xantippus, who first improved his eloquence by the friendly aids of literature, not the kind of literature which treats professedly of the art of speaking, of which there was then no regular system, but after he had studied under Anaxagoras, the naturalist, he directed with alacrity his attention from abstruse and intricate speculations to forensic and popular debates. All Athens was charmed with the sweetness of his language, and not only admired him for his fluency, but was awed by the superior force and terrors of his eloquence. 12. This age, therefore, which may be considered as the infancy of the art, furnished Athens with an orator who almost reached the summit of his profession, for an emulation to shine in the forum is not usually found among a people who are either employed in settling the form of their government, or engaged in war, or struggling with difficulties, or subjected to the arbitrary power of kings. Eloquence is the attendant of peace, the companion of ease and prosperity, and the tender offspring of a free and well-established constitution. Aristotle, therefore, informs us that when the tyrants were expelled from Sicily, and private property, after a long interval of servitude, was secured by the administration of justice, the Sicilians, Corax and Tisius, for this people, in general, were very quick and acute, and had a natural turn for disquisition. First attempted to write precepts on the art of speaking. For them, he says, no one spoke by prescribed method, conformably to rules of art, though many discourse very sensibly and generally from written notes, but Protagoras took the pains to compose a number of dissertations on the leading and general topics, as are now called commonplaces. Gorgias, he adds, did the same, and wrote panegyrics and invectives on every subject, for he thought it was the province of an orator to be able either to exaggerate or extenuate as occasion might require. Antiphon, the Ramanusian, composed several essays of the same species, and according to Thucydides, a very respectable writer who was present to hear him, pleaded a capital cause in his own defense with as much eloquence as has ever yet been displayed by any man. But Lysias was the first who openly profess the art, and after him, Theodorus, being better versed in the theory than the practice of it, began to compose orations for others to pronounce, but confined to himself the art of composing them. In the same manner, Isocrates at first declined to teach the art, but wrote speeches for other people to deliver, on which account, being often prosecuted for assisting contrary to law and to circumvent one or another of the parties in judgment, he left off composing orations for other people and wholly applied himself to prescribed rules and reduced them into a system.